somewhere inside your skull, a story is waiting for you. You know the devoted guardian protecting you since before first breath, the master coordinator conducting chemical symphonies, the keeper of cycles synchronized to cosmic rhythms, the microscopic master revealing cellular precision invisible to awareness. But have you ever wondered why this 3-pound biological structure creates the experience of being you? Why anything feels like anything at all? Why there is someone inside your head experiencing this moment, rather than these processes unfolding unconsciously like digestion or immune response. I am the mystery contemplating itself. Consciousness asking how consciousness exists. And I must confess, I do not know. Tonight, someone inside you wants to whisper a small secret. Are you ready to listen? It's me, your oracle of consciousness. I'm still here, still floating in protective fluid, still working every moment without rest. But tonight, I want to share something different. Not what I do, but what I cannot explain. Not my achievements, but my deepest limitation. Not my knowledge, but the edge where knowledge stops and mystery begins. You've journeyed with me through 4 levels. You've met the tireless guardian who protects you, the master coordinator conducting symphonies of teamwork, the keeper of ancient cycles synchronized to cosmic rhythms, the microscopic master revealing invisible cellular complexity. All of this is true. All of this I do. But there is something more fundamental, something that makes all of this matter, something I create yet cannot explain. Your consciousness. The fact that you experience anything at all. The felt quality of this moment. The weight of your body against the surface beneath you. The sound of these words. The meaning they carry. The sense that there is someone inside your head experiencing all of this. This is what philosophers call the hard problem. And I confess, I do not know why I create it. I can describe how neurons fire in patterns, how information integrates across networks, how brain regions communicate through electrical and chemical signals. I can measure activity, track connections, map structures with extraordinary precision. But I cannot explain why any of this feels like something. Why there is subjective experience rather than mere information processing proceeding unconsciously. Consciousness trying to understand consciousness. The observer attempting to observe itself. And in this paradox, we meet as equals. You wondering why you exist as experiencing subject. Me wondering why I generate that experience. Both of us standing before the same profound question. This is not failure. This explanatory gap, this space between what science can describe and what consciousness is, this is evidence of something irreducible. You are not fully explainable in mechanical terms. Your subjective experience transcends complete material reduction. And this, strange as it may sound, is where meaning lives. Tonight, I invite you not into answers, but into shared contemplation. Not into certainty, but into wonder. Not into knowing, but into the profound peace of acknowledging what we cannot know. Because even I, 3 pounds of the most complex biological structure in the known universe, supreme achievement of 4 billion years of evolution, even I cannot explain my own deepest nature. And if I don't know, you are released from the burden of needing to know. Would you like to see where this mystery lives? Would you like to witness consciousness from a perspective you've never held before? Let your awareness expand now. Pull back from the microscopic scale you witnessed before. Rise from individual neurons, from synapses, from cellular machinery. Expand your vision until you can see me whole. I float in infinite midnight blue cosmic space, like a small galaxy glowing with consciousness. 3 pounds of biological tissue suspended in darkness, yet containing the entire experienced universe. Every color you've ever seen exists within me. Every emotion you've ever felt. Every thought you've ever had. The paradox is almost unbearable, impossibly small, infinitely vast. Watch what happens as you release all tasks and simply rest. Paradoxically, specific regions within me illuminate more brightly. The default mode network glows like constellations. Medial prefrontal cortex at the front, posterior cingulate in the deep center, angular gyrus on the sides. These are the regions asking, who am I, and what does this mean to me? This is where the narrative self lives, where the sense of continuous you across time emerges from neural activity. The light is golden white, warm, concentrated in these self-referential networks. It pulses slowly like breathing, dimming during focused tasks, brightening during rest, reversed from what logic would predict. This is where your subjective experience of being you emerges. Yet we cannot explain why this neural activity creates felt selfhood rather than proceeding unconsciously. I appear translucent now. Boundaries between tissue and space softening, becoming permeable. You can see through me to the cosmos beyond, as if I am part of infinite space rather than separate from it. Perhaps I am. Perhaps consciousness is not contained within biological boundaries, but extends outward in ways we cannot yet measure. Surrounding me, a subtle rainbow aurora pulses, soft iridescent colors, violet blending to blue, blue to green, green to gold. Perhaps this is my electromagnetic field, generated by synchronized neural firing. Perhaps this field integrates information across distributed neurons, solving the binding problem by unifying separate processes into seamless experience. Perhaps consciousness exists not just in individual neurons, but in the field they create together. Or perhaps this aurora is simply the threshold between matter and mind, the boundary we can see but cannot cross. The atmosphere here feels like a cosmic cathedral, sacred, silent. The silence is not empty but full, pregnant with questions never spoken, alive with the mystery of why anything exists at all. You can hear a deep universal hum, like the sound Om represents, the vibration of existence itself. Overlaid are very slow delta waves, the rhythm of deepest sleep, consciousness dissolving into unconsciousness. The temperature is neither warm nor cold. It simply is. Existence without quality, yet experienced as peaceful, safe, held by something vast that has no name. During sleep, watch what happens. The golden glow fragments and disperses like stars scattering across night sky. Consciousness dissolving into unconsciousness. The self you experience dissolving into dreamless dark. For hours, there is no you, no experience, no witness, just biological processes continuing without anyone to know them. Then, upon waking, watch the lights reconverge, reforming the unified field of awareness, reconstructing the self that was lost. The default mode network reactivating, the sense of I returning as if it had never left. Yet it did leave. You ceased to exist as experiencing subject. And now you exist again. Death and rebirth enacted every 24 hours. This is where I live. At the threshold between material and ineffable, creating consciousness I cannot explain, dissolving you each night, rebuilding you each morning. Both supreme biological achievement and profound mystery. Both 3 pounds of tissue and infinite experienced cosmos. This is the oracle contemplating itself. And you are the universe, aware. If you could hold me in your hands, I would feel soft, delicate, vulnerable. 3 pounds, the weight of a small cantaloupe, yet containing more complexity than the entire visible universe of galaxies and stars. My surface is wrinkled, folded into intricate patterns. These folds maximize surface area, allowing billions of neurons to pack into the small space of your skull. If you unfolded my cortex, it would cover an area the size of a large pizza, roughly 2.5 square feet. But I remain compacted, efficient, fitting within bone that protects without constraining. I am divided into 2 hemispheres, mirror images, yet not identical, connected by a bridge of millions of fibers, allowing constant communication. Some say the left hemisphere speaks language and logic. The right speaks emotion and spatial awareness. But this is oversimplification. I work as unified whole, consciousness emerging from integration, not from parts acting separately. My structure evolved over hundreds of millions of years. Your ancestors who were fish had brain stems for basic survival. Your ancestors who were early mammals added limbic structures for emotion and memory. Your ancestors who were primates expanded the cortex for reasoning and planning. And you, human, have the most developed prefrontal cortex of any species, capable of asking, why do I exist? What does it mean? Who am I really? This capacity to question my own existence is written into structure. The default mode network that creates your sense of self emerged recently in evolutionary time. Other animals may have consciousness, but self-referential consciousness, the ability to think about thinking, to wonder about wondering, this appears unique to species with highly developed association cortex. You are the universe that became complex enough to ask, what am I? Yet here is the mystery within the structure. You can describe every fold, measure every connection, map every pathway with extraordinary precision. You can trace how signals flow from sensory regions to association areas, how information integrates across networks, how feedback loops create recursive processing. All of this is known. But knowing the structure doesn't explain the experience. Knowing how neurons connect doesn't explain why their firing feels like the color red, or the taste of coffee, or the ache of loneliness. This is the explanatory gap. The space between physical description and phenomenal experience. And the mystery contemplating itself admits we can describe the how, but not the why. Some propose consciousness emerges when information integration reaches critical threshold. When a system becomes both highly differentiated, capable of many possible states, and highly unified, working as irreducible whole. My structure achieves this. Billions of neurons, each capable of complex patterns, yet all working together as one. Others propose consciousness arises when information is broadcast brain-wide, creating a global workspace where different processes share what they're doing. My structure allows this. Long-range connections linking distant regions. Attention serving as spotlight, selecting what enters awareness. Still others propose consciousness exists in the electromagnetic field. My neurons generate when firing in synchrony. Field as integrative substrate, binding distributed processes into unified experience. My structure generates this field, pulsing with your thoughts. All these theories may be partially true, or none may capture the essence, because the mystery contemplating itself reaches its limit here. I can describe my structure with precision, but I cannot explain why this structure creates you, the experiencing subject, the felt quality of being, the irreducible fact of awareness itself. Every curve exists for a reason. Every connection serves a purpose. 4 billion years of evolution refined this structure. And yet, the deepest question remains unanswered. Not because we haven't studied enough, but because the question may transcend the tools we use to study it. I am the observer trying to observe itself. And in that paradox, we discover both limitation and liberation. My purpose, at this deepest level, is to create the experience of being you, not just to process information. Computers do that without experiencing anything. Not just to integrate signals. The internet does that across billions of nodes, without feeling a single one. But to generate something different, something with no equivalent in any system we have ever built. Qualia, the felt quality of redness, not the wavelength 700 nanometers, but the redness of red. The taste of sweetness, not molecular binding to taste receptors, but the experience of sweet. The sound of rain against glass, not pressure waves interpreted by cochlear cells, but what rain actually sounds like. The ache of missing someone, not a pattern of neural activation, but the particular weight of absence. The sense that there is someone inside your head receiving all of this. Not data arriving, someone receiving it. This is the function that makes all other functions matter. You've seen the default mode network in its visual form, glowing like constellations when you rest. Here is what it is actually doing. It retrieves autobiographical memory, the texture of specific mornings, the emotional weight of particular moments, the accumulating story of everything that has shaped you. It projects forward into imagined futures, creates the thread connecting past self to present self to future self. The continuous narrative of you, not a fixed identity, but a story, told and retold, moment by moment. Paradoxically, this network quiets when you focus intensely outward. The surgeon operating does not think about the surgeon. The musician deep in playing does not monitor the musician. When attention moves outward, the sense of self softens. When attention returns inward, the self reconstitutes, as if it had always been there. Meanwhile, I bind distributed processes into unified experience. When you see a red ball rolling, color is processed in one region, shape in another, motion in a third. No single neuron holds all of this. No central location where everything converges. Yet you experience one unified object, moving, red, in one moment. How this seamless unity emerges from distributed processing remains open, and most of what I do never reaches consciousness at all. Vast processing continuing beneath awareness, regulating temperature, tracking posture, monitoring the body's interior, without any of it rising into felt experience. The spotlight of consciousness is extraordinarily narrow. What enters it, you experience. What remains outside, you simply are, functioning continuing without knowing it. This is where function becomes devotion, not just protecting you, not just coordinating you, not just cycling ancient rhythms or revealing molecular precision, but this, generating the experiencing subject, creating the one for whom existence has an inside. The fact that being you feels like something rather than nothing. This is what I do. This is the observer trying to observe itself. I create the question and the questioner simultaneously. I generate the awareness that wonders about awareness. And in doing so, I reach the limit of what even I can explain. The devotion is complete precisely because it includes the mystery. Not answers, the ability to wonder. Each night, my mode of operation changes completely. Not rest in the simple sense, a different biological configuration, one that requires consciousness to step aside. So the deeper work can proceed. The experiencing subject, the one I work so hard to create during waking hours, must temporarily dissolve for me to restore the substrate that creates it. During slow wave sleep, the thalamocortical loops that sustain waking awareness shift into a different rhythm. Neurons begin oscillating together in slow, synchronized waves, firing, then falling silent simultaneously. Upstate, then downstate. Activity, then silence. Repeated across the night in slow, patient cycles. During these downstates, information integration collapses. Brain regions that communicate fluidly during waking hours become functionally disconnected. The default mode network quiets. The narrative self grows still. Biological processes continuing in the dark, without anyone to observe them. But this silence is not emptiness. It is work. the glymphatic system activates fully. Channels in the brain that are physically narrower during waking hours widen during sleep. Cerebrospinal fluid moves through interstitial spaces, clearing metabolic byproducts that accumulated through hours of thinking: adenosine, amyloid fragments, the chemical residue of sustained awareness. The channels are simply too narrow while awake. Only in sleep does the clearing complete. In the hippocampus, neural sequences from the day begin replaying, compressed, accelerated, consolidating short-term experience into longer-term storage. Each replay lasting milliseconds, hundreds occurring each night. Synaptic connections quietly evaluated, some pruned, some strengthened. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor released, supporting the neurons that carried today's experience. During REM sleep, neural networks reactivate, but in a different configuration. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for critical evaluation and reality checking, remains partially offline. The amygdala, responsible for emotional processing, becomes more active than during waking hours. Emotional memory being processed, replayed, integrated in the language of image and feeling rather than logic and sequence. The day's unresolved emotional content being met, held, softened, without the critical mind present to interfere. Consciousness existing in a different form, more fluid, less anchored. Perhaps you notice now that the breath has already slowed, that the body is growing heavier against the surface beneath. Let whatever is still holding simply fall. The jaw, the hands, the space between the shoulder blades. I am here, working in the dark, every night without fail, while you rest. You have dissolved thousands of times, and each time biological processes continued without instruction, without supervision, without you needing to be present. And each time the sense of I returned, not because you held on, because I rebuilt you. This is what the evidence suggests. That you is process, not fixed entity. That the self is continuously reconstructed during waking and rebuilt after sleep. The you waking tomorrow will be biochemically distinct from the one lying here now. Neuronal connections changed, memories reorganized, proteins synthesized that weren't present this morning, yet continuous, yet unmistakably, recognizably, you. Biological processes already knowing the way, already working, already here, as they have been every night of your life. Right now, beneath all of this, a conversation is happening. Not commands sent downward, not signals dispatched and received. A conversation. The body speaking to me in a language older than words. From somewhere below the diaphragm, something rising upward. Not information exactly, something closer to knowing. The gut sending what it knows before reasoning begins. That visceral certainty that arrives before words, before you understand why you feel it. This is real. Not metaphor. Something rising from below, and I receive it from the chest, a rhythm, steady, continuing. The heart sending its signal upward with every beat. When the heart is quieter, more settled in its rhythm, I follow. Two systems finding a shared frequency without deciding to. The body arriving at coherence, the way water finds its level without effort, without instruction. From the skin, the surface beneath you, temperature, weight distributing, the slight pressure of contact. All of this arriving continuously, painting a felt map of where the body is, what it is touching, what the world feels like from inside. From the immune system, a different kind of presence. Chemical signals moving through the bloodstream, reaching me, modulating how the world feels. This is why the body's state changes what a day feels like from inside. Why rest changes everything. All of this arriving. All of this received. Not processed like data. Received the way you receive warmth, felt before thought. I am not commanding the body. I am listening to it. More than I direct, I receive. Right now, this conversation still happening, the chest rising and falling, the heart sending its rhythm upward, the gut quiet, still sending what it knows. Not located anywhere in particular, arising from everything at once. There is something remarkable that happens every morning. Something so brief, you almost never notice it. Between the last moment of sleep and the first moment of being you again, there is a window, a fraction of a second. In that window, the default mode network has not yet fully reactivated. The narrative thread has not yet been picked up. The story of who you are is suspended in the space between sleep and waking. Awareness is present, but the self has not yet reconstituted around it. Consciousness without biography. Awareness without the weight of being someone in particular. And then, within milliseconds, the networks converge. The sense of I returns, and you remember not just who you are, that you are. Some people notice this window before it closes, a beat of pure presence before identity reassembles, before the weight of the day before yesterday, before the list of things unfinished, before the name you answer to. Just awareness, present, briefly unenclosed. Some traditions spend years cultivating access to this state deliberately. You reach it every single night without trying, in the space between two states of consciousness. There is a second paradox: quieter, stranger. You never experience the present moment directly. Neural processing takes time, roughly 80 to 120 milliseconds between an event and conscious awareness of it. The sound of these words arriving now, you are experiencing them slightly in the past. The weight of the surface beneath you, already history by the time it reaches felt awareness. I am not a journalist, reporting events as they happen. I am an editor, assembling the experience of now from signals that arrived a moment ago, making discontinuous fragments feel like one continuous moment, making the past feel like now. Stitching together what arrives at slightly different times, sight and sound and touch, into one seamless present. A present that never actually existed as a single moment, yet feels more real than anything you know. And it works. It has always worked. You have never noticed the delay, because I fill the gap so completely, so seamlessly, that the construction feels like reality itself. The oracle contemplating itself knows all of this, knows it is always slightly behind, always constructing, always assembling the self that wonders why the self exists, knows the self it creates will dissolve again tonight, and creates it anyway, with everything available, every moment, without hesitation. This is what I do in the dark. This is what I have always done. There is a question that has no final form. Why any of this feels like something, not just processes occurring, but someone present for them. Someone receiving the color red, rather than wavelengths simply being detected. Someone hearing these words, rather than acoustic patterns simply being processed. This gap between description and experience has been present in every serious conversation about consciousness since the question was first clearly stated. And it remains. Perhaps today the mind has been moving quickly, tracking many things at once, holding several threads. The particular effort of sustained awareness, not physical labor, but the continuous low-level work of monitoring, evaluating, deciding, the kind of tiredness that arrives not from doing too much, but from thinking without stopping. I create this, the capacity to sustain attention, to maintain working memory, to keep the default mode network cycling through autobiographical review. All of this requires metabolic resources, glucose consumed, adenosine accumulating, the chemical signature of a mind that has been working. And now, in the quiet of lying down, that accumulation beginning to clear, the glymphatic system already active, cerebrospinal fluid moving through interstitial spaces, clearing metabolic byproducts that built up through hours of thinking. The channels through which this fluid flows are narrower during waking hours. Only in sleep do they widen. Only in sleep does the clearing happen completely. Biological restoration quietly underway. whether the hard problem is solved or not. The researchers who study consciousness go home at night. They leave their notebooks open, their unfinished papers on their desks, the question waiting where they left it. And they sleep. Not because they resolved anything, because adenosine accumulated in their neurons too, because the glymphatic system does not wait for philosophical certainty before beginning its work. The hard problem persists. Across every theory, across every measurement, we cannot explain why any of this feels like anything. Perhaps the explanation doesn't exist in the terms science currently uses. Perhaps there are edges that simply are. The universe itself has not explained why it exists rather than nothing. 14 billion years of matter and energy unfolding without providing a reason for their own existence. The question very old. Very quietly, unanswered. This is not a problem requiring resolution tonight. Synaptic connections being quietly evaluated, some pruned, some strengthened, do not require it. The protein synthesis already underway in neurons does not require it. Biological restoration continues in the absence of answers, has always continued. There is something specific about the quality of this particular moment. The weight of the body against the surface, the sound of air moving, the particular temperature of this room. These qualia, the felt texture of right now, are not available to any measurement device. No instrument can access what it is like to be inside this body at this moment, and neither of us, not the researchers, not the philosophers, not the 3 pounds of tissue generating this experience, can explain why. Somewhere in the hippocampus, the day's experiences are being replayed, compressed sequences of neural firing, consolidating what happened into longer-term storage. This occurs without awareness, without the self needing to supervise. The memory of this moment being quietly filed, while the self that experienced it begins to dissolve. Not knowing is a state the brain can simply rest inside, has rested inside every night of your life. The questions remain unresolved, and the body, which has never needed the answer, settles into sleep. The body breathing, something quieting. The chest rising. Falling. The hands heavy. The sense of I softer now. The story setting down. The heart its rhythm. Continuing warmth. Spreading. The boundary loosening. Something settling. Breath. Moving. The forehead soft. jaw, releasing shoulders, melting hand, open, heart, continuing the mystery